Oh, come on, it's been so good. It's been so good. God is doing something. Just then in our lunch break, someone runs up to me and says, hey, just got a bit of news for you. So I'm like, yeah, go on. They said, just to let you know the fish and chip lady? Did she serve you? Did you have fish and chips? Yeah? Were they good? Oh, great. I just found out someone was talking to her over lunch. She just gave her life to Jesus. Man, yeah, you could stand to your feet for that. Incredible. And I want to say, you can take your seats, but I think what God does is He lifts our eyes to see that there is opportunity all around. And we've just seen a group of people speak to this woman, and she has found Jesus. Man, opportunity is all around, and God is revealing to us that in actual fact, if we just can lift our eyes, if we can lift our head, we will be able to see something that we did not see before. But we're looking at Elevate. It's incredible. We're looking at Elevate. And I believe over this next year, God is really going to elevate every single one of us. This is the beginning of an elevation that is taking place in your life, in your family's life, in your workspaces, in Revelation, in whatever it may be. You are going to elevate to a new level. There is a new level beckoning. There is a new level that is coming. And I want to prophesy and declare right now, if you're in this room and you open your heart to Jesus, you are going to be lifted on high. The mysteries are going to be revealed. There is going to be fresh revelation. And you're going to find that as you begin to elevate, there is an overflow that spills into every area of your life. Amen? We were made. I want to call this today, made for the mountain. Made for the mountain. Do you know that you are made for the mountain? Few people? You are made for the mountain. There's a verse in Ezekiel 28, and it actually refers to certain things that are going on in the Garden of Eden. And this verse seems to suggest, whilst it's talking about Eden, it says that whilst they were in Eden on a high mountain. So what this tells me and you is that we were made for the mountain, and we were created on the mountain. So you might feel like you're in the valley, and you might feel like, I don't feel like I belong in a valley. You don't belong in the valley. You actually belong on the mountain. And I want to just take this a little bit further. If we see that God is eternal, He has always been. And you haven't always been, but yet you were first birthed in the mind of God. You have been an overflow of something that has existed for eternity. When He birthed you through a thought that He had, you have been in His mind, in the high place, always. Before you come to earth, you were in His mind. And if you have been in His mind, you have always been in a high place. And as He thought about you, you were then birthed into Eden on a mountain. You are made for the mountain. You are made for the high place. You have been in the Most High's mind from day dot. You have always been in His mind. Why? What does this tell us? That we belong on the high place. That you don't belong down there. You belong on the high place. You belong up where the mountain is. You belong where the air is thin. That's where you belong. You belong where the air is thin. Why? Because you are made on the mountain. You are made for the mountain. And do you know what's incredible? We look through our Bibles, and the mountain becomes this operating system for heaven. We get kicked out of the mountain for what we did. We choose to live in the low place. Okay, if you want to live in the low place, you can leave Eden. And ever since Eden, we have been trying to get back to God by climbing mountains and having a revelation that takes place on these mountains. It is in those moments that the mysteries are revealed to us. It is heaven's operating system on the high place. How many of you feel like when you're in God's presence, or you're in that moment where you just feel the lift, you're like, this is where I belong. This is just where I belong. When something goes great and you feel the lift and you feel lifted, why is it that we feel this is where I belong? Like, I belong in the good place. I belong in the good times. Why is it the bad times we almost feel like they last forever and they are not where we belong? But the good times don't last too long, but it seems to be where we feel we belong most. I want to read a verse in 2 Corinthians 4:17. Paul's talking and he says, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." So Paul, let me get this straight. You're telling me light things build heavy glory? I'm not following, Paul. You're going to have to help me. You're telling me that the hard stuff is light and the invisible stuff is heavy. What? Paul, you're telling me that my light, momentary afflictions and troubles, the light stuff that's hard, you're telling me that's light? Whoa. Is this just me, or is heaven possibly measuring things a little differently to how we do? That maybe because we don't no longer live at the high place, it does not land the same way. That in actual fact, the afflictions, the troubles that go on, the things that we go through, they are actually the light things that are producing heaviness in the unseen. And you got to know that when you are going through these times, the number one thing that you feel is lacking, this lift. You don't realize it, but somewhere else it's lifting. Somewhere else something is being loaded. Somewhere else it's being deposited. Something else is taking place. The unseen and the invisible is getting heavy. But those things that are hard that we see, Paul's saying they're light. This does not make sense. And it never will make sense. Why? Because we were made for the mountain. We belong on the mountain, so when the light afflictions come and we feel we're in the valley, it makes no sense what is taking place. But I want to say right now that what God is going to come and bring a lift. God is going to lift your eyes. He's going to lift your head so you begin to see. In actual fact, God is doing something you've never been able to see. And when the Spirit comes and brings a lift, you begin to look at it. Oh my gosh, it might be light and difficult here and it might feel hard, but I know as life goes on, there is something that is going on. There is a glory that far outweighs anything you're going through. Amen? Come on. I want to show a little video. We're going to show a video right now of my baby girl, Vera May, okay? And just before we get the video up, Vera May is the type of girl that loves her birthday. I have never seen someone love their birthday so much. But my little daughter, she's like, she just feels like it just never lasts long enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, she wants her birthday a week at the age of 6. But I want to show you because she woke up, we gave her all the toys, and she's running around, but something happened that was bad on her birthday. It wasn't great. So have a look at the screens, and you'll see. What's the matter, darling? What's wrong? Can you see it?
Yeah! I wanted to play with that one.
She woke up and she had a number 6 balloon and it was all perfect inside. It was all beautiful, and she runs around and she picks it up and she's loving her balloon. She's got all her presents. She got a slide. She goes out into the garden and she is running around with the balloon. Okay? She's outside in the garden. She's loving it. She's running around thinking, oh my gosh, I'm 6. She's showing everyone, I'm 6. Look, I'm 6. She's running around. And did you see the 6 in the sky? And then the meltdown takes place. What's interesting is the lift feels like freedom. The lift feels good. We love the lift. The moments where we feel as if we're flying high. The moments where we feel, oh my gosh, this is a good moment. This moment, I don't want this moment to leave. And then the bad moments where we feel it's the opposite of lift seem to linger around forever. She had a balloon, but it did not last long. Why? Because there is lift. Lift feels like freedom, but how many of us know that if we're not aware of something else that's needed with the lift, we might lose what we love most? Now I want to take us to Matthew 17, because we're going to see the journey of someone that goes down this route, and we find that lift is a good thing. Lift is a great thing. In fact, there is so much freedom found in the lift. There is so much in the lift that we should enjoy. Why? Because we belong on the mountain, and we were made for the mountain. And the first mountain I want to take us to is the mountain of glory. Matthew 17, it's the mountain of glory. Let's be honest, we're all made for the mountain of glory. We love the mountain of glory. This moment where we run around with the lift and we see the balloon and we see the most incredible things. And Peter, in Matthew 17, he goes and he begins to see the most incredible thing he's ever seen. He sees Jesus with Elijah and Moses on a mountain at the transfiguration. It's this transfiguration that's taking place. It says in the Bible that his face began to shine. The lift is shining. The glory is shining. And Peter is there, and he literally looks and he cannot believe what he is seeing. So much to the degree where he's like, oh my gosh. And Jesus has to come and say, it's okay, Peter. Lift your head. He is at the mountain of glory. But listen to what he says. In verse 4, and Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is good that we are here. If you will, if you wish, I will make 3 tents here. One for you, one for Moses and your buddy Elijah. I'll make a tent. Now what we want to do is, on the mountain of glory, what we want to do is we want to camp on that mountain. Let's be honest, like when we're in a moment with God and when we've got our balloons on, we feel the lift. We feel the lift so much, we're like, I want to camp in this place. Why? You are made for the mountain. You are made for the glory. You are made to be able to see the glory. But Peter is there and he wants to camp in this place. Now the problem is Peter is there and Peter is not understanding truly what's going on. The lift feels like freedom. But how many of you know that if there is not a load, the lift keeps lifting? The lift keeps lifting. So Peter is saying, can we please stay here, Jesus? Can we make this permanent? Can we please stay here? And you might have moments in your life you look back on and you might look and think, God, I wish I could have just stayed there. God, every single problem I'm facing now is because this wasn't permanent. Why did this break? Why did this fail? Why did this fall? God, what was going on? But I got to tell you that lift might feel like freedom. But you got to understand, load feels like friction. And maybe if there is freedom without the friction, it might flow away. There is a load that Peter was not carrying. He was experiencing the light. He was experiencing the glory. He was experiencing something that was shining. It was Jesus, but he did not understand what was going on. And then we see they move on from this moment, and we got the same Peter a few moments later on a different mountain. I imagine Peter was in that moment thinking, why can't this moment just last forever? I want to camp here. I want to stay here. And then the next breath, he finds himself on a completely different mountain. The Mount of Olives. Yes, we belong on the mountain of glory. But what about the mountain of agony? And Peter finds himself being told by Jesus, hey, will you just stay here and pray? And guess what? On the mountain of glory, we want to camp there. And then the mountain of agony comes along. Jesus takes there. We don't know what's going on. We have come down from the high place and we go back up to another high place, and now we don't belong there. Now we want to escape this. Now we don't want to really confront what is going on. Jesus is in the garden weeping. We had shiny Jesus and now we've got shaky Jesus. And now Peter is looking and he is here at this mountain, and rather than him camping at the mountain because he wants it to be permanent, he sleeps on the mountain because he wants to escape. We all want to stay at the lift. But what about the load? What about the load? What about the weight? We want the light, but do we want it to be heavy? Do we understand that we're on the mountain of glory, that there is heaviness with glory? Do we understand that the glory is not light? The glory is actually heavy. Jesus is in the garden at this moment and he is weeping. He is being crushed by a weight. Why? Because there's agony. We want the lift of transfiguration, but we don't want the load of transformation. There is a load that you need in your life. The lift feels like freedom, but the load feels like friction. So what does Peter do? He falls asleep. It says that his eyes were heavy. Maybe his spirit wasn't. How is it that we want to, in the places that are most difficult, get in the tent, get out of the way, and escape? Because we've got no lift. There's no lift. We had the lift on the mountain, but we forgot about the load. And now we've got the load on this mountain, but we can't find the lift. You can't have the lift without the load. And you can't have the load without the lift. Either way you go, you're going to need the both. You're going to need the good times. You're going to need the weight. You're going to need the agony. You're going to need to carry some things. You're going to need to understand that there is a load to carry. And we see the most glorious human being ever in the garden. And what's happening? He is being crushed by the weight. And he is literally carrying the heaviest cup you've ever seen in your life. We could not carry this cup. We could not carry the cup that he was carrying. And he is saying, take this weight. Please just give me another option. But not my will, but your will. So you can see in this moment, he is carrying a heavy cup. And then later on what we see, 3 times Peter's asleep. Is this like me and you or what? God's moving, God's doing things, and we're asleep. We're trying to escape the agony, and we don't understand that there are some light things that we see that in actual fact are producing heavy things unseen. There is glory that far outweighs in the affliction, the light affliction. And Jesus is there showing us that in actual fact, as he carries the cup, there is an affliction that we could never carry. But to him, he is basically saying, not my will, but your will. This cup will become light. 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 How many of you know when you carried a load, when you carried the load for your family, when you carried the load for those that went before or after you, when you carry the load, all you long for is it would be light for the next generation. And this is Jesus. Jesus in the garden breaking, and it actually says that the angels came to strengthen him. Heavy. We love to look at Jesus in his glory. But how do we know if we are watching him in his agony appropriately? I want to say that in actual fact, maybe just if we actually cared about the things that broke God's heart, we'd stop walking around heartbroken. Maybe the greatest way for us to not be susceptible to believing for the bitterness, the pain, is to actually begin to see him in the garden in a new light. Not in the glory that we love on the mountaintop where it's worship, where it's these moments. There is a deeper, far greater glory that's going on in the unseen realm, where maybe when we gaze upon his agony, what breaks his heart, what hurts his heart, why he came in the first place, might just be the thing that stops us walking around with a disconnected soul and a heartbreak. When we gaze upon our Savior, agonizing in a garden, do we sleep? 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 Or do we begin to rise? Do we begin to see that whatever it might be that he is carrying, I am going to carry the load with him because this is what he cares for. The load gets heavy. Jesus is carrying a load, but let's be honest, so is Peter. Because it moves from the garden, and now we are literally finding that Jesus is being arrested. The load without lift often causes you to carry and use a sword instead of a cross. We could never carry the cross, but as soon as something comes against our supposed Jesus, our idea of a Jesus that's shiny, but we fell asleep in the agony, what we begin to do is use a sword to attack instead of a cross to bear. Man, I'm preaching. I'm preaching. I believe there's going to be some people who are going to be able to walk out with a cross and lift your head. And lift your head, because there is a lift that is coming. There is a lift that is coming all across this room. But there is also a load to carry. And what often happens is you get to choose your agony. Pick your agony. Peter did. Peter, all of his life, all of his Jewish life, he has been trying to get back to this mountain. This moment where you experience God on the high top and you encounter his presence. And he finds Jesus and he goes to the mountain of glory and he loves it. But then he's on the mountain of agony and he falls asleep. Why? He's trying to get back to the mountain, but he wants to escape the truth of glory. And what we see is we see him then begin to what? Hold a weight where there is no lift. Jesus was there. He'd been lifted and he was about to be lifted. He's carrying a load and the angels come and they lift him. They give him strength because he's about to be the Son of Man that gets lifted on high above every single other thing. But Peter is here carrying a load and Peter can't deal with what's going on. So he uses a sword because he's like, you can't take Jesus. He's what gives me glory. He's what gives me glory. You can't take Jesus. Jesus gives me glory. Please don't take that side of Jesus from my life. I need this Jesus, so I will use whatever to try and protect my view of glory. But how many of us know that we don't get to define what glory is? He's the one that gets to define what glory is. He is the one that gives glory. He's the one that shows us heaven measures differently. And he measures differently in your life. You've got to know that you might be looking and thinking, Jesus, where were you? He's in the garden. He's there for you. But Peter doesn't believe it. How many of us know that Peter goes through denial? And in this moment of denial, what he actually does is he can't lift his head and he can no longer see Jesus. There is something about a fractured heart, a load that we carry, an agony that we go through that makes us deny Jesus, even if we don't denounce the name, but we denounce the person. This is the load. This is the load without the lift. You can't have the load without the lift. You need the lift. You can't have the load without the lift. And who's going to lift your weary head? Who is going to lift the burden off you? You could say money will lift my burden, but it won't lift it. You can say that a new relationship will lift my burden, but it won't lift it. It will keep you carrying a load without a lift. And there comes a moment, can you imagine? Can you imagine? Luke 22, it says this. The Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. Then Peter remembered the word that the Lord had spoken to him. Oh, before the rooster crows today, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. Heartbreak. A load without a lift. Maybe you feel you're here today and you're carrying a load and you cannot get a lift. There's no lift. Peter's there. Peter's in this moment. Peter is carrying at this point. And I want you to get this because this is the same for you if you're in the same boat. Peter is carrying the weight without the why. And if we really break this down, the why is found on a mountain, and we left the mountain. We don't know the why, the mysteries of the why, and he can't see, but he can hold the weight. He's feeling the agony, he's feeling the pain, but he just can't work out the why. You know, the higher you go, the heavier it gets. So it would make sense for you to feel the load so much so that you forget to lift him. Because the lie is that you won't ever get higher, but the fact you're feeling heavier is the fact you're getting higher. Peter does not realize at this moment that it wasn't about what he did get right or what he did get wrong. There was a time that was allotted before the foundations of the earth that in actual fact Peter had to walk through, carry a load, but Jesus was going to come, and Jesus had already prayed for his disciples that they would not be taken away. He was actually saying, no, Peter, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. So he knew what was taking place. Jesus foresaw everything that was going to take place. Peter did not carry a load because he got it wrong. He carried a load because he couldn't see why. That's it. But Jesus could. So imagine seeing Jesus' eyes look at you because you got it wrong and think he's blaming you or punishing you. I mean, like the broken heart, the load makes us see God in such a wrong light. We're back at the garden again. We're on a mountain, but it might just be we don't understand that this is all about heaven's operating system, not our good work operating system. In actual fact, what we see is Peter is carrying a load. He's carrying a load. And we actually find that what takes place is Peter then literally goes and Jesus dies. He's crucified, he dies, he goes into a grave and he's resurrected again. He carries the load we could never carry. And in the midst of the greatest comeback, the greatest bounce back you have seen in your life, when you feel like what you're carrying or what you've done can't get you back to where you should be, you just have to go back to the cross and the resurrection and find out that even death could not hold Jesus back. It could not even hold him back. He redefined what death is. So whatever situation you might be facing right now, you might feel like there can be no lift. But he just reordered the whole of creation. So there's always a lift when you're carrying the load. There's always a lift when you're carrying the load. Whatever it is you've done, there's always a lift when you're carrying a load. There's always a way for God to turn it around. There's always a way for what someone intended to use for harm. God can in actual fact show you, hey, but I use this for good. He might not cause things, but he will always use things because he's the one that's in control. But what we do is we see Peter go back to what he knows. It's funny how load makes us go backwards. We can carry such a load and such an agony in our life that we go back to previous relationships. We go back to mindsets. We go back to comforts. We go back to idols. We go back to things. Why? Because we feel that there's no lift. And Peter goes back to fishing. Peter goes back to what he knows best. Why? Ooh, why? It's in our DNA to go back. You are made for the mountain. You are made in the high place. He couldn't see why. Jesus could. You might be going back. Yeah, we're going all the way back. You think you're going back to fishing? This is cool. This is where I picked you up last time. I'll pick you up again here. And you don't know where we were heading because you can't see the waves. You can't see where it is we're going. Why? Because the mysteries will be revealed through revelation in the appropriate time. And Peter is there on the shore, back carrying a heavy load. Oh my goodness. Carrying a heavy load. And guess what? Whilst he's carrying the load, guess who's on the shore? Jesus. You think your load is too heavy? I reckon at that moment when he realized he denied Jesus and everything took place, I bet he went back to the garden and the mystery just became true. He understood it. That agony wasn't because that agony was for me. He picked my cup up. Maybe it was, I thought it was a dream. I was asleep. I thought it was a dream. I thought I was dreaming that Jesus was going to die and he was carrying a cup and it was my cup. Maybe in that moment where Jesus is on the shore and he is looking, thinking, surely not, is that the Son of God? And he leaps out of the water and he bounds towards him and he falls at his feet and says, Jesus, is that you? And Jesus looks at him and Jesus has breakfast, does all these amazing things. He says, Peter, do you love me? Yeah, I do. I know. You couldn't see it. Do you love me? Yeah, I do. Peter, do you love me? Undoes. He's going backwards. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's undo everything you thought was holding you back from the lift and from the high place. Undo it. Undone in a moment. Right now in this room. Undone in a moment. Every single bit of shame you carry. Every single bit of sin you have done. Undone in a moment. Broken. Restored. Redeemed. Reversed. Why? Because you have to understand Jesus knew you were going to do what you did on the date that you did it, and he's still there saying, I held that cup. So he looks at Peter and he says, Peter, you've seen me lifted now. And I know you love the lift. You saw me loaded now. And I know you don't like the load, but you carried a load. And I'm here to lift you. And he says to Peter, he says, if you love me. Oh, do you want to know the sign of if you're lifted and loaded? Feed. Feed my sheep. Feed my sheep with your lift and your load. Feed my sheep with glory and with agony. Use everything you thought that was held against you for me. Feed my sheep. Feed my sheep. We've just seen two people speak to a woman out there. Why? Because they recognize that their life has been turned around. They recognize that Jesus endured an agony. So what do? They go feed some sheep. They go say, hey, I know what you're relating to. Jesus can lift you. And Jesus can load you. And I've got to tell you something right now. If you feel like at this conference God is lifting you, something is loading. And if you feel God is loading you, something is lifting. This is the way our God works. I am telling you right now, what Jesus does in that moment is he takes him back to where he first started, in a high place. Matthew 17, it says just a little bit later, tell no one on the transfiguration, the glory, the high moments. Tell no one the vision until the Son of Man is lifted. You're going to have to carry this load. What is he carrying? You saw something at a different day. And you came to another point. And now you have seen that why there was a transfiguration of glory was because I was going to carry your load. And you were going to see that the Son of Man has been risen to life after death. Now, why is this important? Because something from that moment where he first saw had been loading all along. Tell no one of this vision until you see me raised back to life. So you could say there has been a path Peter was walking all along. He saw the glory. Let's camp here. Let's camp here. Yes, you're made for the mountain, Peter, but you are seeing something prematurely. There is a mystery to be unrevealed here. You need to understand that every dream you get given, every moment where you begin to see the light, every revelation that comes, it will come with a load. Every single time, but he's here and he sees it and he loves it and he wants to stay. And basically he's saying, wait until the Son of Man has been raised back to life. Why? There is something that is loading in the process. And it will make sense. Why? Because he brings light where there's revelation. Now I want to end with this. If the musicians can come up. It says later on in Matthew 17, truly I tell you, If you have faith, turn to your neighbor and say, if you have faith, the size of a mountain, the size of a seed. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can speak to this mountain. Move from here to there, and it will move. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that outweighs them all. The light, small, temporary affliction. The faith the size of a seed will move the most glorious thing we can see with our visual eye, the mountain. And we know that the light troubles produce a glory that outweighs them all. We're seeing a parallel here, that in actual fact, you need something small to be able to make something glorious and heavy move. You only need the small. You only need the small to move the greatest thing you can see with your eye, the mountain that is fixed. You can move it with the size of a seed. Now, I got to break it down for you. We were made for the mountain. We were born on the mountain. We left the mountain, but we kept camping on the mountain, climbing the mountain, and we were longing to be on the mountain. The law was given on the mountain. A child was offered, and yet a ram was brought on a mountain. The greatest sacrifices and altars were built on the mountain. The temple was built on a mountain. And then we see Jesus, the glory, come, and he's transfigured on a mountain. And then he goes to Mount Olive, and we see that he is in the mountain of agony. There is mountains all along that we can begin to look at. And Jesus begins, and he decides to die on a hill size of a mustard seed. He don't need much. He'll use the small thing and show you how to use the small thing to shift the biggest, baddest weight we've ever known, called death. And maybe just what Jesus is really saying is, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, based on what I have done for you, I carried the load. I was lifted, I was loaded, I came, I saw, I conquered. And now he's saying, hey, you were born on a mountain, you were made for a mountain, you've kept visiting mountains all of your life, you've been climbing, camping, you have been trying to get back to me ever since. You've been trying your hardest, Peter, to get back to me, but the mountain came to you. We think that we ascend the mountain to meet God. It would be foolish to think that. He descends heaven to meet with us. We don't climb. We don't camp. He camped in our flesh. He climbed the mountain we would have to climb. He carried the cup we could never carry. And he said, hey, you know the mountain that you've been trying to get back to every single time? The mountain has come to you. And guess what he says then? I'm paraphrasing here, but I believe Jesus is pretty much saying, speak to that mountain. And that which you have been trying to camp at, because you want it to stay permanent, but you don't understand the mysteries of why. You haven't been loaded just yet. And maybe the temptation where you camp in the mountain of agony because you're trying to escape it because you cannot see the why. You are carrying the weight, but you can't see the why. Jesus is saying, I brought all of it to you. I brought it to you. And what he's saying is if you speak to the mountain, and the mountain is Mount Zion. It is no longer a place. It is a person. His name is Jesus. If you speak to Jesus and say yes to Jesus, you will see a mountain move from outside to inside. Oh, you don't have to camp. Listen to me. You don't have to camp at the mountain, and you don't have to climb on the mountain. God is not trying to create campers. We're not mountain campers. It's all changed. We're mountain carriers. You're no longer climbing the mountains to reach God. You were carrying the mountain that reached you. Game over. We ain't elevating and trying to go higher without heavier. We carry the mountain. It says in Daniel that there will be a stone that will be cut by no hand, and it will be a mountain that will fill the whole earth. It's the kingdom of heaven reaching. There is a mountain that comes down from on high. It is heaven that comes down from on high. It is a person that comes down from on high. You no longer have to climb geographically. You can now climb the person called Jesus, and nothing can take it away. Nothing can stop you from getting there. Why? Because the mountain is inside of you. I want to say that we're elevating. We ain't elevating externally. There is something shifting internally. There is a lift and there is a load. And I got to tell you, when we understand that there's a lift and a load, that's the way it was always meant to be. Maybe this is what we see as the glory. And maybe this is what we see as the heaviness, the affliction, the load. But what if it's reversed now? What if in actual fact the glory came down and He lifts us up forever? And in every single trial, in every single affliction, in every single thing, whatever it may be that you feel is making you keep rise and it's going to get out of control, I am telling you that He came down and He is the load that now carries you, and He can never ever, His love can never be separated. There is never going to be a moment you do not hold the mountain, hold the presence, hold the glory, hold the ability to climb and grow and push and move and be able to believe and speak to